A few days ago, I received an email from the Canal and River Trust inviting me to complete a survey about my boating experiences. Apparently they choose so many people each month to give them feedback. So within that in mind, I thought I would make a simple vlog to feedback my experiences during the 10 months that I've had the swamp duck, and talk about the types of issues and questions that I had, and hope they may be of use for other people who might be thinking about taking on a boat. When I bought the swamp duck, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing really. It was a complete stab in the dark. I only paid just over £2,000 for the swamp duck, but I've spent that much at least again in restoring her. The main things that I had to spend money on was the new canopy and the electrics and new leisure batteries. But as in any DIY project, it's all the small items like the paintbrushes and the screws and the glue and all that kind of thing that mount up and make a really significant amount. So I would probably say from the outset that I've found that boating, it isn't a cheap hobby. Having bought the swamp duck, the first thing I needed to do was to secure a mooring, which I did at Shardlow Marina. The cost of the mooring is about £1,000 a year, and for that the boat is kept on a secure gated floating pontoon. You need a key to enter the pontoon. And being on a floating pontoon means that you don't have to worry too much about the change in river levels. This is quite a busy marina, so there's always somebody around to have a chat to. There are a lot of other people here, literally in the same boat, so to speak, and I found them to be very friendly and extremely helpful by them sharing their knowledge, their tools and materials, and generally looking out for one another. Shardlow Marina has the advantage that as far as the Canal and River Trust is concerned, it's officially off-grid. Being privately owned in private water, and therefore you do not have to have a license. However, that is not the case for all marinas, and you would need to find out what the situation is where you've managed to secure moorings. Because of that, I was initially able to buy a 30-day Explorer license, which cost me just over £100, and that enables you to use your boat for 30 days in a 12-month period, and you can buy as many of those licenses as you actually need. And this was great whilst I was working on the boat, because for a large percentage of the time the boat wasn't leaving the marina. I was simply doing work on her. But now and again I wanted to take the boat out just to see how it handled and get me used to handling the boat, and to see whether the things that I'd done on the boat would, match up to expectations when they went out on the canal. At this point, in end of August, I've managed to use 26 of my 30 days. I need to save about 4 of them, because the boat has got to go down the River Soar to a boatyard where it's going to have the bottom looked at, and the anti-fouling paint is going to be renewed. So what things have I not enjoyed? We'll think about those first. The worst thing that happened was that a short while after returning from a 2-day trip to Loughborough on the River Soar, I ended up at the hospital with a bacterial infection, leptospirosis, which is associated with dirty, contaminated water from rivers, and it was quite nasty, and it has to be treated with antibiotics. It was very debilitating, I can tell you, and it knocked me for 6. So hygiene is something to take very seriously and consider when you're boating. The canals and rivers look nice, they look lovely, but the water can contain all sorts of hidden dangers, from old fridges and the proverbial shopping trolley to waterborne diseases such as leptospirosis, and more seriously, Weil's disease. So it's important to think about personal hygiene and about personal protection equipment, PPE, particularly when you're operating locks on your own. You're going to come into contact with the water, you can't really help it. When you're climbing up and down a slimy lock ladder that's just been immersed in dirty water, and also when you're hauling in things like ropes that have fallen in and got wet. It's quite possible also to get the odd cut and graze when you're boating. You're jumping in and out of boats, and it is quite a physical activity. So the combination of cut and grazed skin and dirty water is not a good one. So I've taken to wearing an old pair of gardening gloves, which give plenty of grip and they give me protection. And also I've got into the habit of using sanitizer each time I return to the boat, having done a lock or a similar activity like a bridge or something like that. Sailors on rivers are identified as being at particular risk from the contamination of the water. It's from the urine of animals, cattle and rats and that kind of thing. And I wouldn't want to alarm anybody, but it can have fatal consequences, so it's worth thinking about your PPE. vlogging. That was a totally unexpected pleasure, where I've learnt new skills and been able to use my creative and design skills that I've picked up over the years. I've made contact with a whole load of other vloggers who have been extremely helpful in this venture. I often say that this boat was rebuilt by YouTube. A great place if you want to know how to do something. I like the people on there who are not experts. They're just like you and me. They're trying to find their way through a problem, and they've found a way that works for them, and they're prepared to share it. And so to the future. After the boat has come back from anti-fouling and a bit of the paintwork has been looked at, and there's been a general spruce up on the hull, I'm looking forward to lots of leisurely cruises down the canal. Probably going to stick a little bit more to the Trent and Mersey, especially as we get towards winter. There may be less closures and disruption on the Trent and Mersey. And then I'm thinking about planning into the future, and next year doing a much longer journey spread out over 2 or 3 weeks, where we can do a round trip, maybe the 4 counties ring, something in that order. So I want to say a big thank you to all those who've followed my vlogs so far on this channel and on my other channel, the Wednesday Waddle or the Sunday Stroll. As a vlogger, Strictly Come Dancing has passed me by this year, but who knows? Keep watching.